Well, I had the last 4 days to process everything that's going on around me, around the world. Now, for those that's been under a rock, we inaugurated a new president of the United States. His name is one Donald J. Trump. And so the biggest $1 million question is, how do I feel about Trump being back in office? Well, some would be very disappointed with the answer. I really don't care. I'm honestly glad he's back in office, but not for the reason you really expect. Hear me out. In the belief system video, I talked about something called the cash flow quadrant. Okay, now for those that doesn't know about the cash flow quadrant, I'll gladly show it to you. It looks something like this. Now, on the left side of the cash flow quadrant, you have an E. And E stands for an employee, which means you work for a boss. This is where you work 40 hours a week. Some people may work more than 40 hours a week, but you pour 40 hours a week of your life working for somebody. And you earn a paycheck, and at the end of the year, you get something called a W-2 in the mail. And that's where you file your tax returns. All right? And a great majority of Americans are employees. Okay? You may be watching this video right now, and you are an employee. On the bottom of the E is the S. Now, who are S's? S's are people that are self-employed or a small business owner. That means you own a job. So if you are a lawyer, you open a law firm. If you're a doctor, you open up a clinic. And if you are a social media influencer, you open up a you don't open nothing up. Yeah, you open up a social media app, but you open that social media app, you post content on the platform, and you get paid by the platform. Hence, that counts as being self-employed. It's pretty self-explanatory. Now, furthermore, I need to explain the implications on the left side of the cash flow quadrant. You see, blacks, Hispanics, Asians, people from the Middle East, LGBTQ plus people who I highly admire and respect. And I have friends in that space. And if you don't like that, go fuck yourself. The thing is, a great majority of the people that's on the left side of the cash flow quadrant relies on the federal government. For what? Financial assistance. If you're going to college, you file something called FAFSA. Everybody files for FAFSA to receive a Pell Grant or a loan from the government. If you are pregnant, there's a federal program for pregnant women. Yes, believe it or not, there is a program for that. If you need food assistance, the federal government got you covered. SNAP. So, essentially, what happens is these people rely on them so much because they are broke. Financially broke. Their everyday expenses are going up and up and up and up, and that's due to inflation. And taxes are not even helping them either, because E's on average pays 40% in federal taxes. So let's say you're earning $5,000 and 40% of that $5,000 is already going to the federal government. That's $2,000 gone to the federal government. And we're not even talking about the state or even perhaps the local tax too. That's off rip. And then you've got all these expenses that's piling up, right? A majority of Americans in this country is paying half of their paycheck in rent. And then you have all these other expenses. The electricity bill, you have probably the heater bill, water bill. If you have a house, you pay mortgage. Half of your money goes in mortgage too. You also pay payment subscriptions. If you're subscribed to Hulu, if you're subscribed to Netflix, Max, whatever streaming service, you gotta pay that. Not to mention that you have to go out and get the groceries, which is increasing, and you also have to pay insurance in your core. You have to pay personal property taxes on your vehicle, and if you have a house, you gotta pay HOA fees monthly and home insurance. Do you see how much it's piling up? And not to even mention that these are the people that is using credit cards because they can't even cover their expenses, and they got to pay that off. And for the people that went to school, right, they got to pay off the student loans that they used. And not to even mention there are people that are in medical debt. Do you see how much expenses is piling up? These people are already stressed out. Now, a self-employed person is even in a worse shape than an employee, believe it or not. A lot of you think, oh my goodness, the E's are in a bad shape. Well, let me tell you, the S's are in an even worse shape, because these are the people that pays up to 60% in taxes. Unbelievable, right? It's unbelievable. So the E's and the S's collectively relies on the federal government, because especially for an S, you get something called the small business loan. Get a small business loan from where? The federal government, to start your small business. So the question is, who does the employees, the self-employees, who do they advocate for? Who's the ones do they advocate for? The answer is simple. It's Democrats. It's Democrats, because they're the ones that is spending all this money, funding all these programs to help people like you. They're helping you out. And who are the ones that is trying to cut all that spending in these federal programs? The Republicans. It is the Republicans. So in policy, if Republicans is in office, in this case Donald Trump, they'll do everything in their power to affect the people in the E's, the peoples in the S's, which means that they are going to significantly suffer. Now, I didn't mention about the tax credits, because if you're on the left side of the cash flow quadrant, you get tax credits. Get an education tax credit if you go to school. If you have children, if you got kids, you have a child care tax credit, right? And if you're paying interest on the mortgage of your house that you live in, you get something called a mortgage interest deduction. All right. So the Republicans are trying to take away what? The child care tax credit. They're trying to take away the mortgage interest deduction tax. And who does it affect? The people on the left side of the cash flow quadrant. And Donald Trump this week alone signed executive orders banning DEI initiatives in federal offices. Who does that affect? People on the left side of the cash flow quadrant. He even signed an executive order trying to end birthright citizenship in this country for illegal immigrants. Now, yesterday, that's overturned by a federal judge up in Washington state, because it is a clear violation of Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. Who did that affect? The people on the left side of the cash flow quadrant. TikTok was banned in this country. And Apple today said that they refuse to have TikTok back on their app store until TikTok is sold. Who does it affect? People on the left side of the cash flow quadrant, especially the influencers. Their livelihoods, their life-changing money that they made on TikTok, their businesses is ruined, and their influence, being an influencer on TikTok, is also ruined. And part of the reason, I'm not going to say the full reason for obvious reasons, the US just wants control of the app. No matter how the Democrats, no matter how the Republicans spin it, it's simple. They ultimately want control of the app.
See, these two, man.
Come on, man.
You know why they're laughing.
Come on, man.
Because
now, do you see how they are significantly suffering on the left side of the cash flow quadrant? It's affecting everybody, and these are the people currently that is stressed out. But do you want to know who isn't stressing out? The right side of the cash flow quadrant. So let's talk about the right side. These are businesses. They have a system. All right, people work in the system that you own. You own the system. I's are investors. Money works for you. Okay. Now, the federal government has two primary purposes. The first primary purpose is they want job creation in this country. How does job creation happen? Well, job creation happens is when people have businesses. Businesses creates jobs, and creating jobs help stimulate the economy. It's pretty self-explanatory. All right. So, as you know, Donald Trump this week announced a $500 billion investment into this project called Stargate. And who's leading the charge in Stargate? OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank. They're all leading the charge. Essentially, Donald Trump is using federal funds to put it into the private sector. Now, the thing is, the federal government can only create jobs within the federal government. They cannot create jobs in the private sector. They can only invest in the private sector, and that's it. Now, the same concept goes to state governments. State governments can only make state jobs. Local governments can make local government jobs. Pretty damn simple. So, Donald Trump is putting $500 billion into Project Stargate on AI infrastructure. All right. He wants all these data centers to be created in this country. And if the data centers are going to be created in this country, then who ultimately benefits from the data centers being built? Is the federal government building all these AI data centers? No. It's going to be the companies that is receiving funds from the federal government to build the data centers. And these same companies that builds the data centers is going to hire people to go into the data center. And guess what? That achieves the primary purpose of the federal government wanting job creation in this country. And if you're able to create jobs in this country, you are rewarded a tax break in a form of what? Deductions, in a form of credits, and in a form of depreciation or amortization. How do I get all this information? Please go read this book, Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. I'm not sponsored, but if you are a brand new person in the world of entrepreneurship, this is a must read, because this literally changes everything you view about both taxes and money. And then the final thing, investor. All right, this leads to primary purpose number 2 for the federal government. They want people to invest in this country. They want you to invest in housing, to provide housing for people. Real estate. Currently, real estate ain't looking too good right now. Let's just keep it $150. It's not looking good right now, especially with the mortgages being at 7%. Lord have mercy, they are suffering. Okay, energy, local energy, specifically oil. I mean, Jesus Christ. Donald Trump said it himself in his inauguration speech. He said, drill, baby, drill. Drill, baby, drill. He wants massive oil production in this country. He wants people like you and others to drill oil. But Saudi Arabia invests $600 billion into the U.S. They want to invest in products made in America. And guess what? Saudi Arabia, let's pretend they are a business. They're investing products made in America, and as a result, they get a tax break because they are investing in the country. So, why am I glad that Trump is in office? All of what Trump is doing is all just noise. In the last 4 days, It's been nothing but chaos. It's been a lot of chaos for the people on the left side of the cash flow quadrant. People don't know how to act. Let's just be real, they're losing their collective minds, which means a lot of problems are being created in this country. And if a lot of problems are being created in this country, it only means one thing. There's a lot of problems that can be solved in this country. And if you solve somebody's problem, well, guess what? You alleviate their pain. And if you alleviate their pain, what happens then? Value is created. If you are able to solve a problem that you're currently experiencing in this country, what makes you think that there's 10,000 people out there that's not facing a similar or the same problem as you? You are going to be extremely valuable during the time of these crises when you're able to solve people's problems. And people in this country will literally pay you to alleviate their pain. And if you're able to, you're going to be the most valuable person in your niche that you are working with. So I got a question for you, dear viewer. Are you going to spend the next 4 years complaining about everything the president does? Or are you going to spend the next 4 years capitalizing on every damn opportunity that is out there as more and more and more chaos is being created? You make a name for yourself and you make millions upon millions of dollars doing so. The choice, it's pretty obvious. And if you know me by now on this channel, you'll know exactly the choice I'm gonna roll with. So with that being said, if you like this video, if you found this information to be useful, give it a thumbs up. If you are a brand new person on this channel and you want to see more content like these when I speak controversial topics and speak when I'm outside, you know, going around talking wherever I go, please subscribe. And always remember, you're the star that shines and your hype is real. Always remember that. I'll see you on the next video.